This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Cabo Jim Schaller.
Welcome, good neighbors, to episode number 153 of the Good Neighbor Podcast, Estero. Today we have good neighbor Kristie Middendorf from Core Pediatric Therapy. Kristie, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, excited to learn a little bit more about what you do and share it with the community here. So without further delay, let's jump right in. And why don't you share a little bit about what you do over at Core Pediatric Therapy?
Yeah, well, I'm the owner of Core Pediatric Therapy, and I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I'm the sole practitioner in my practice. I've been doing occupational therapy for over 30 years with infants and children and have a variety of experience in different settings, including mostly outpatient pediatrics, but I have also worked inpatient and done some home health as well. And in the NICU experience. And I provide a lot of, kind of non-traditional and more advanced treatment approaches for kids with infants all the way up to teenagers with a variety of different problem areas.
Wow. So can I ask how you got involved in this industry?
Do you mean occupational therapy in general?
Where'd you get your start?
Yeah, well, when I originally was going to be a physical therapist. I had an uncle who was paralyzed when I was kind of in my younger years, and that always kind of sparked my interest and thought that that's really something that I wanted to do, was to help people that way. And so I was going to take physical therapy in college, and literally decided at last minute that I wanted to be an occupational therapist because I had to take one less chemistry and physics class.
That'll do it.
So that's how I become an occupational therapist and not a physical therapist.
See, there you go. It's the path you were meant to follow. That's it. So we've all had some type of, I want to say, challenge or maybe obstacle along our journey that we've gone through, and now we can look back at, and I want to say we're happy we went through it. Maybe we're in a better place and we can look back. Is there something that happened along your journey that you can look back on?
As far as like when I was figuring out what I wanted to do,
or even starting a business. That's challenging in its own, right?
Yeah, I never really thought about opening up my own practice. I worked for a large outpatient facility up north in Iowa, and was able to kind of spread my wings there, and they supported me with a lot of continuing education and kind of let us, evolve as a center that was more unique in our treatment approaches. And, once I had the opportunity to move here to Florida, which is always what I wanted to do, I opened up my practice and just hit the ground running. I had moved down here to kind of slow things down in my life a little bit with my work-life balance.
How did that work?
And that didn't work at all. However, when you really love what you do and you're passionate, it doesn't seem so much like work. So it's really been amazing. The families here in Southwest Florida are so committed, and once they get to me, they're ready to team up and do the work that they need to help their babies and kids thrive and do better. So it's been the best thing ever.
That is awesome. We love that. So are there any myths or maybe misconceptions surrounding what you do that we could clear up for our listeners?
Well, I think sometimes when people come to see me, I think, and because my roots are and training is in a lot of areas, from sensory processing to feeding and swallowing issues, that was a big part of my training and still is. But they see me doing a lot of body work, and not just like if people come to me for feeding. I've had several people say to me something about going to a feeding therapist, or their doctor mentions that. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's we are working on feeding. It's everything's connected. And so I think that and maybe sometimes I do look more like a traditional physical therapist because I am working on the body, but it's so important because you got to have stability in the body to support the muscles for sucking and swallowing, and those kind of things. So I think that's the one thing that is sometimes confusing.
Everything's connected somehow, and
That's
you've got to
right.
work on it all.
Yeah.
So do you see anything, I want to say, trending or changing in the industry in regards to what you're doing?
Well, one of the things that are a big part of the referrals I get are babies with tongue and lip ties, and that's kind of been a big thing, as well as mouth breathing later on and myofunctional therapy. And so I think there's a lot of learning that we have to do in the area of tongue and lip ties. And I think once there was a lot more education on that, I think as a whole, providers kind of swung to, let's get a release for the tongue and lip ties. That's the answer. That's going to solve everything. To now, we're all stepping back going, wait a minute, we need to do some other things first to get the best results, because I don't get a lot of babies that come to me before a release. They come to me, I'm usually the last one they get to post-release, and they haven't been able to meet their goals with the release. So I think these babies are much more complicated than just cutting a frenum. So
Right.
that's
Absolutely. We all learn as we go.
That's right. It's a process.
Yep. So you mentioned you were from Iowa. What brought you to Southwest Florida other than the beautiful weather?
I know that's been great. We got our foot in the sand here several years ago. My husband and I bought a condo on Fort Myers Beach. And so it got harder and harder for us to come back to make the return trip. And it's always been a dream of mine to move here. So with all the COVID stuff, that just made it kind of easy. So that's how I landed here full time.
Perfect. Now I know you mentioned you're very busy.
Yeah.
You work a lot of hours, but when you have that little bit of free time, what do you enjoy doing?
Oh, well, we just bought our first house down here, so we're enjoying the time in our pool, and we love still going to the beach. We have some friends we hang out with down here, and I love to read, and I still take a lot of classes for fun.
For fun. You can never
Yes.
learn too much, right?
Right.
So is there one thing you wish our listeners knew about what you do that maybe they're not aware of?
Yeah, I think I actually had a therapist last night call me a unicorn, because I think I do have a lot of years of experience. So there's that. And I do take a lot of continuing education, have a lot of certifications and advanced training. So I think the therapy that I do is just not your standard stuff. And I believe or feel that the therapy I do is very effective. So I feel like the kids or the babies and the kids don't have to be in therapy as long, and the results are more pronounced than when I was a therapist in my younger years, kind of doing more standard stuff, I guess. So I feel like these advanced treatments really work. But I do, I can't just fix it myself. I really need the parents to be with me and help do the detective work, so I can, show them what it is that they need to do at home in between the therapy sessions. And that's what I feel like is, what is really the thing that makes those, makes those connections and those improvements. And once these kids improve, and I call it building the foundation of the house, instead of just working on, the symptom or a specific functional skill. The work that I do helps kids flourish in a variety of areas, whether it's feeding or motor skills or behaviors or, sleep even. So
Yeah, you just don't want to solve one issue. You want them to
yeah,
grow. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So how would our listeners go about contacting you if they had any questions or things they needed to learn?
Yeah, they can get on my website, Core Pediatric Therapy. I have like a consultation email there. They're also welcome to contact me. I talk with all of my patients before scheduling just to make sure that, it's the right fit and I'm the right therapist to help their child. And yeah, so it's pretty simple. I usually am able to get back to people in a pretty timely manner, and I do commit to trying to get the babies in a week or two, because I know when they come to me, it's usually kind of more crisis. At that point, there's feeding problems. We're trying to preserve breastfeeding and things like that. So I do try to, get them in sooner than later. So.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for
Yes,
being
thank
such
you.
a good neighbor.
Yes.
And I hope to see you out in the community soon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Estero. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpestero.com. That's gnpestero.com. Or call 239-296-2621.